Gamers, today we're here to discuss a topic that I've been seeing on Reddit fired up. I've seen this topic before, and the topic is, should we have civilization vetoes in ranked gameplay? First thing we're gonna check is the pick rates. So a lot of people want there to be civ bans in ranked. So for example, just like you can veto 4 maps in ranked, that you can ban at least 1 civ, okay? Because the only reason why people want this is because of English. I see this being brought up all the time and it's always English. So let's look. Gold rank. That's where gold and plat is where majority of the player base is. And people say, I meet English 50% of the time, or 30% of the time, or whatever. Can I see peak rates somewhere that it shows in percentages of every civ? Because this shows win rates. So for example, in Gold League, English has been picked 101,000 times. And then you have Ottoman 21,000, China 29,000, 15,000 is for Malian, Abbasid, HRE, yada yada. So, just by looking at these numbers, English is obviously the most picked civ by far. Second is HRE, and I think third is French, if I'm not mistaken. So, already, like, meeting English half the time thing does not add up. I think English is probably played about 20%. I'm not going to crunch the numbers on stream. English probably makes for about 15 to 20% of all games that you're playing in Gold League, and it probably does not change much in Platinum. I would assume it's more or less the same. Actually, no, it changes quite a bit. Wow. Okay, never mind. In Platinum, English is played 35,000 games, and then you have other civs like HRE 23k, 17, 16. So it is still the most played, but the numbers are not that far off from the other civs, which actually makes me wonder if English is even 10% in Platinum already, where English is. That's actually a big drop off. In the first one, English is played 100,000, and the second is HRE with like 50k. But here, even though it is also double from the second civ, there's actually a lot more civs that are in those ranges. So for example, Byzantine 21,000, you have OTD with 15,000, you have French 17,000, Abbasid 17,000, HRE 23k. So it's probably like 10% of the time being played. There's a page with a pick rate you can check. Where is that? Okay, here we go. Pick rate. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Thank you. This is perfect. Okay, so in Gold League, right? We're gonna look in Gold League. I can't sort by pick rate. It is what it is. English is picked 20.6%. So whenever people go like, look, I just had 5 English in a row, or 5 games in a row versus English, or I'm meeting English every second game, that's not true. Like, you can check those numbers, so there's no reason to lie about that, right? And you have the other civ percentages, which are obviously much lower. The second civ is HRE with 10.5%. Now, in Platinum, if the other thing was correct, we're going to see a much bigger drop. I mean, okay, it's 15.1. It is still 5%, more than 5% drop. And then you have Byzantine with 9%, Mongol with 7.1, OTD 6.3. You have Abbasid 7, French 7. So again, my point is English is the most big civ, but you're not meeting English every game, or even every second game, or even every 4th game, right? It drops off quite a bit. Then we're going to see Diamond. English is at 12.7%. And you can see as you go higher in ranked, the English is getting picked. Not so much less and less. It's that the other civs are played more and more because people are often playing multiple civs and not just playing English one-trick pony over and over. In Conqueror rating, English is played 11% of the time. But you have Abbasid with 10.5%. Other civs are a lot higher up average-wise. So, yeah. So, English is the most played civ. And the topic that it was brought up was, should there be vetoes in rank system? Because people don't want to play against English or don't like playing against English. So, I wanted to go through that, read some of the opinions from people, and then give my opinion at the end of why it should or why it shouldn't be added. Here's a quick fix how to make the game more interesting. Fix peak rates in ranked. I'm talking about one-on-one. First thing, we already have band maps, which are great, and everybody loves that feature. One band for each map in each player in one-on-one is super good. Why? I know it might be hard for gold 400 level Andy to understand this, as he only plays English for 3 years and is not willing to... Okay, a little bit aggressive. It's already known that new DLC with new civs is coming, which means more matchups, more game knowledge. If you think it would kill the game, no. It would the opposite. People would have to learn more civs and it would quickly lead to more peak diversity. Want 100% player nation, go ahead and queue normal. Okay. Currently, we have about 20% peak rate for England. Again, this is only Gold League, so we have already covered that. So if this guy's calling other player gold level Andes, and this guy says we currently have 20% peak rate, that means he's also gold. Do you really think it's healthy for the game? Low civs on the rank have about 2.7% peak rate. Let me actually see what is the any civ English peak rate. It is 19.6. Okay, so he might be referring to that. But in gold specifically, it's 20%. Let me actually see what is bronze and silver. 25%. Okay, so bronze and silver are and gold are probably dragging this up quite a bit. 26%. Yeah, so bronze, silver, and gold, which is a big part of the player base, pick English a lot of the times, which probably gets the average higher quite a bit. People are too lazy to learn any other civ than the first day I've learned. For casuals in their comfort zone, not that English is too OP or strong, I'm 100%. If you dog nerf English, they would still be around 20%. Right, because people maybe like playing English, or it's a simple civ to get started with. A ban phase would encourage players to think critically about their strategies and adapt to their opponent's strengths and weaknesses. Players would need to accordingly anticipate what their opponents might ban and adjust their plans accordingly, adding a layer of strategy to the game. And also something for you, actually gold Andes. I get it. Sometimes you encounter a matchup you find frustrating. A ban phase would help alleviate this frustration by allowing players to exclude civilization that you find particularly problematic. B+, there would be no stupid threads like English OP. Well, there would be. It would be English OP, and this other civ that I can't ban would be OP, right? People who complain about balance, like that's holding them back, they would find a way to complain about something else. It's not like all the balance in the world would just cease to exist and nobody would yap about it. This dynamic would keep the game fresh and exciting as players explore new strategies and counter strategies. The lobby before the game starts could be anonymous, so you can't use AoE for world argument. This is what I never understood. Okay, let me just start with this. I never understood this. So there's these people that say English is so common, I hate playing against this. It's difficult to play against this, right? I don't want to play against this. But then they want the English players to play something else. Now let's turn that around. Why don't you, if you're meeting English that much, why don't you learn a counter to English, learn a civ that counters English, and then play that, and then get all the free wins? Do you know what I mean? Why does it have to be the English player to switch their civ? Why don't you switch your civ? Because let's assume you're that other person. Unless you're playing one civ and one civ only, you should have no issues with a civ being picked that much because you can just counterpick it. So I'm not sure where the logic in that is. The post is more how English is boring to play against? Right, but you do realize, let's say we live in a world where there is a veto. Let's say English is perma-banned on the ladder. Okay? Let's say people just ban English and there's no English. What do you think would happen? Let's just go along with me here. No, English is no more. What do you think would happen? Where do you think those English players would start playing? They would all play most likely Abbasid or HRE. I think that's just logical, right? And we're assuming they wouldn't quit the game. They would probably play H or Abbasid. That's, I think, most realistic, or maybe Byzantine. H or Abbasid are more likely. Now, what do you think would happen then on Reddit or forums? Do you think people would go, thank the Lord we don't have to play against English. No, no one would say that. People would make threads about HRE or Abbasid and how obnoxious it is to play against them and how boring it is to play them and how we need 2 bans now. So I don't think this is any kind of solution. You would rather play HRE? Right. And if you played against HRE as often as people claim to be playing against English, you would say, well, I would rather play against Byzantine than I would play against HRE. And then if HRE is banned, then you would say, well, I would rather play against Abbasid than I would against Byzantine. Because people will always find a way to complain about the next thing. Because it's not your fault that you're losing the games, it's the Civ. So I don't think this is a solution. You're just shifting the problem from one thing to the other thing. The problem isn't that English is OP. The problem, if you want to call it that, is that English is an entry-level Civ, and people are flocking to it because it's in campaign. People are always suggesting, you know what, you're starting A4, try English, right? And then as people learn, and by the way, people do learn. People go from gold to platinum, people play English, and they're like, you know what, let me try another Civ. And then the people start playing other Civs, which is why you see this effect of English, and then the peak rate slowly starts to go down because those players that are advancing through leagues now have the mental capacity. They learned about the game more, so now they have a mental capacity to be like, okay, I've played English enough, I want to try some other stuff. A guy in gold league or bronze or silver, they're not going to be able to play multiple Civs, right? I wonder what the numbers are, but I would probably guess over 60% of the players in bronze, silver, or gold only play one Civ. I don't have any numbers of this, but I'm willing to bet that that is the case. Because, why? Because they don't want to learn? No, because they probably already feel overwhelmed with the game, or they just don't have time to learn another Civ, or they just enjoy English, and that's it. So, I would say the people that are saying, oh, I'm eating English all the time, probably just plays one Civ as well. Yeah, it's the same for every RTS game. People try more Civs, strategies the higher they go, because they learn more and they don't have to pay attention to some of the more basic stuff. Now, I can see the point of it. I personally would love for there to be a ban system on at a high rank. Like for me, I would love that. But I don't think this would be a good idea for lower leagues. I think it would just shift the problem. At high, like at Conqueror level plus, right? Even Conqueror 1, people wouldn't ban English only, right? People would ban Abbasid right now, they would ban Byzantine, some people would ban English, some people would ban Mongol, some people would ban HRE. Whereas I feel like in Bronze, Silver, and Gold, and even Platinum most likely, people would just auto-ban English, which then removes the Civ from the game completely, right? And again, then you reach a point where all those English players will actually either quit the game or they will turn to HRE or French or Abbasid, and then we're just going to see an increase in posts complaining about those Civs. Some people want to just play the game and not have to learn everything, and I think that's okay. Like, I think that's okay. I don't think you should dictate what your opponent plays when it's an RTS and it's really hard to learn, especially for beginner players. Because let's be honest, we're talking about beginner players, right? We're talking about entry level, bronze, silver, gold. And I don't, you know, I don't want to see like Joe come in and Joe's like, oh, I like English. They have like these archers that got long range. And I'm like, well, actually, you can't play that. You need to play French. And it's like, well, I don't want to play French. I like the archers. It was like, well, you can play English. Like, these English players that you're meeting, they're probably not playing 10 games a day. You know, they're probably playing not many games a day, majority of them. So, I don't think that's a good idea. I think, at first, you think like, oh, that'd be great. Adding more variety or more depth to the game. Sure, and that works for stuff like League of Legends or Dota 2, because there's like 150 heroes or champions or however many there are. So your team banning 5 and the enemy team banning 5 is not that big of a deal because, first of all, there's a crap ton of heroes, right? But also, you're not like, we're not gonna compare a whole Civilization A4 to knowing one hero or one champion in mobile games. Like, one hero is a lot easier to play than one Civilization, right? It's not really comparable. I don't know. I think the only thing you would do is alienate a lot of the players and player base, and I think a lot of players would just end up quitting. I'm gonna be honest. Like, not everyone plays this game for hours every day, and not everyone plays to advance. Not everyone plays to improve. Not everyone wants to play multiple civs. Some people just want to play one civ and that's it. That's all they want to play. And I don't think people should dictate what they do. Now, I do think that once you start reaching certain rank, people do play more civs. I actually remember there was I don't know if it was like Reddit people voting, but basically it's like at what rank you are and how many civs you play. And I think once people start hitting diamond, they play 2 to 3 civs on average. Okay? Because, again, people at that point learn more about the game, they understand the economy, they understand the armies, the battles, and they're like, oh, let me try another thing. And it was the same with Mareka when I coached her, right? She played English, and once she reached diamond, she said, okay, I'm happy with this, I want to learn another civ. And then she learned, I can't remember if it was Malian or HRE. I think it was Malian first. And then she learned HRE, and then later when she got Congress, she learned Byzantine. So now she plays 4 civs, right? Why doesn't she learn all the civs? Because she doesn't play enough, right? She's not that interested to learn all the civs. My point is, not everyone has the same goals. So yeah, I personally don't think this would be a good change. I mean, not, let's say 20% of all picks in ranked are English. Do you really want to do a change that's going to make 20% of the players just very upset if they do only play English? And by the way, that's assuming that 20% of the players only play English, which is not true, right? It's more likely that 10 to 12% are playing only English, and the other 8% are just people who are picking English as well, right? Now, there's a counter post to this post. There was another post, I think, for this, like for there to be a ban. I think this is a bad idea given our small pool of players. This can further discourage people from playing the game, right? Each game new civ release or patch changes, the meta takes even longer to get up to speed. Exactly, like that's another thing that people don't realize. Like, when a new patch comes, for me, I can read the patch notes. Let's say there's like 10 changes about a civ. I can read patch notes and play like 5 to 10 games in one day. And I'll be like, okay, I got it. I know what's changed. I know how it works. That's it. Some people, again, they don't play that many games every day. So if there's massive changes to 16 civs, now they gotta relearn everything. They gotta be like, oh my god, my units don't win anymore. It's a lot of information. One way you could do this, but then you split up your, I guess, ranked community even more. I don't know how that would work. But let's say we had another 100 to 200,000 players. What you could do is you could add a draft rank system where you're playing a best of 3 against your opponent, and you can veto maybe 2 civs or 1 civ, whatever. These used to be suggested back in StarCraft 2. People wanted a ladder queue where you don't queue for a game, you queue for a best of 3 against someone, right? So once you queue, you get an opponent and you play a best of 3, right? So people wanted this in StarCraft. This never came to be. But if something like this was introduced to A4 and then you put a veto, then it's like people who are queuing for this are more experienced and they play multiple civs, and that's okay. But then this would be a new ladder, and then you're dividing the one-on-one ranked ladder even more. So I don't even know if that's a good idea until the game gets more players. Just get good versus English. We don't need to have civ bans because you're salty people play English. Yeah, also, yeah, that's a whole another thing. Like, how do you expect new players to learn civs if you basically remove the possibility to play the most beginner-friendly civ, right? People would just dodge if it's enabled. I mean, okay, that's a good point. Like, people would start dodging. Your enemy bans English, you just fucking dodge, right? And then, can you imagine ladder of people just dodging 24/7 because they want to play English and they can't? And then at some point they're like, fuck this, I'm out. Okay, so anyway, this is a thread that basically goes against what this guy was saying. There are a few very evident problems. People who want to ban civs are the saltiest losers they got. I love how people are very passionate about these topics. Very, very passionate. Not every player has 16 civilizations. See, this is the thing I didn't even mention. If you don't have DLC, you only have access to 10 civs, which means if English is vetoed, you have 9 remaining. So, people who bought DLC will have an advantage. You ban French. Well, the joke is in you because I picked JD. So this is also a very good point that I didn't even consider. Massive increase in matchmaking, wait time, and dodge rate. I mentioned this already. 4 bans in 4v4 games means it takes forever to find a match. Yeah, also true. How would that work in team games? Do you ban 4? One player bans a civ each? How would that work, right? You say learn an English counter, maybe tell them what's an English counter. English has a lot of counters. Malian is very good against English. French is very good against English. JD is very good against English. HRE is fucking broken against English. There's a lot of, like, if English is that prevalent in ladder, again, you can just learn the counter, farm free wins, or have an advantageous matchup, and then once you go to higher leagues, the English is not picked as much. Even if the ban is correctly implemented, what civ are you going to ban? The civ with highest win rate, best in current map, or countering the civ you want to play? Or you go to AoE4 World, check your opponent's profile, and ban their most played civ. There's zero reason to ban civs, period, and people who advocate this change are completely deluded. Much better way to implement this for the game is itself to rotate ban 1 civ every day. I don't know if this is necessarily a better solution. Wouldn't that make it so that there's actually more English players on the 15 days you can play it? I think the best solution is maybe leave it as it is. English players in rank should not be allowed to play only English, right? Because you don't want to play against English. But then it's like, okay, why don't you go play custom games? If you dislike playing against English that much, why don't you go play custom games, right? And the answer is going to be, I don't want to play custom games, I want to play ranked. Correct. Just like English players don't want to play French, they want to play English. It's very simple. Like I feel like it's really not that complicated. And just because you dislike playing against the civ doesn't mean that the game should change for you. You can just change how you go about it. There's nothing wrong for English to be English. It's about how new players don't want to learn the game. Like, you guys do understand that a person playing 3 civs or 5 civs telling a player that only plays English to go learn other civs is literally me telling the guy that plays 3 civs to go learn play 16 or 10 or 15. They literally don't have time to learn another civ. They started with English, they're gonna stick with that. They enjoy it, they have fun. Like, let people play what they fucking want. You will only see bans if a tournament mode comes out. Yes, if a tournament mode were to come out where you say, yeah, I'm gonna queue up for a ladder where there are bans, that's gonna happen. I don't think they're ever gonna add civ bans in ranked as it is. I just don't see it. The logic is the same of why we have now 4 bans for one-on-one. Do you know why we have 4 bans for one-on-one and not 3 anymore? Do you know why they increased the amount of maps that you get on the ladder? Do you know why that is? It's not to make the players learn more stuff. It's to give you more options so you can play what you want and not be forced to play on water maps. I don't know if you realized, but people don't like water maps. There are 4 bans, so there's literally 0% chance for you to play a water map if you don't want to. Because they want you to play what you want to play. Okay? You're not vetoing the maps for your opponents. You're choosing what you want to play. I can counter English, but those games are still a 40-minute slugfest because of White Tower and Berkshire. Why don't you learn how to break that? Ban English and experience 90-minute queue. Yep. I personally think this solution wouldn't lead to anything. People would just, again, in the perfect world, English is permabanned. It would just shift to HRE or Abbasid or French. And same people that complain about English, Surprise Pikachu, are now going to complain about these other civs. And with that, we're going to end this discussion. If you're watching on YouTube, I want to thank you, brother, so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you're an English enjoyer who only plays English and you got 45 children, you only got 30 minutes a day to play. I support you, Grandpa. Twitch gamers, let's keep going.